Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to my talk. I know it's one of the last ones of the day, but before the end of the keynote. So, thank you for coming and hanging around. I'm Stephanie. I'm one of the managing partners at Pendle, and Pendle is a data and AI consultancy that focuses on responsible AI practices. So that sounds very theoretical and airy-fairy, but hopefully after the end of this session, you'll get a true meaning of what that really means. And why I wanted to present on this today is hopefully that you all know there's currently a lack of AI regulation within the UK. We do have the EUA Act, which high-risk systems come in force next year. But this is for you as data leaders and professionals to really understand and consider why AI regulation and guardrails shouldn't be seen as a blocker to innovation, but should be seen as more a competitive advantage. So to get you moving a little bit, so raise your hand, I'm showing my age here, if you had a Nokia in the 90s. I mean, who didn't love them? I'm definitely showing my age, so there wasn't as many hands as I thought. Raise your hand, well, keep it up if you thought Nokia was unstoppable. So they had 40% market share, they had the distribution, they were everywhere. Okay. And who remembers then that in 2007, Steve Jobs walked on a stage and said, "Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone." No one. Oh, few people remember. Oh, I didn't. But I did have a Nokia and I love Snake. And I want you to raise a camera and take a picture of what's on the screen. Get your camera out. Come on, Lee. How many of you took it on an iPhone? No? Majority. And that's because in 2013, Nokia was dead. In just 6 years, it didn't exist anymore. And that is true disruption in action. Now that is just a product, one product in one company. What AI is doing is disrupting every industry, every company. And so if you're not on the AI journey now, you're going to be left behind. So don't be the Nokia of AI. And that picture, keep it as a reminder. So every time anyone comes up to you, you can say, look, we just don't want to be the Nokia of AI. So I think you would have to be living under a cave if you didn't read or hear about the latest MIT research that said 95% of companies at the moment aren't generating a return from their generative AI investments. And if you haven't heard that, you're probably in the wrong conference or in the wrong room. But welcome. You're perfectly fine to stay because I'll tell you all about it. So what that research said, and I was reading it on the train, is that everyone took the clickbait that 95% of companies fail. But what they didn't read is the full article and looked at the 5% and how they were actually generating a return on investment. But luckily for you, I sat down, read the full article, researched a bit more, and found the sweet spot formula. So again, take your cameras out. This is your 2-second warning before I flash up the formula on the screen, so that you can take it away and implement it into the businesses yourself. So, value. So you probably all know and work on at the moment around how you identify AI use cases. So you're looking at your business for the business problems. How can you improve efficiency? How can you grow revenue? What are the pain points that we have to solve? And then you're looking at the right AI application of how you would implement that. So whether that's machine learning, LLMs, ANNs, and lots of other different models. And if you're really good, you're probably also looking at operating model, literacy, etc. But what many companies are missing is trust. And trust is your true multiplier. Companies that are investing in trust generate 3 to 4 times more revenue than companies that don't. So why have I got Lewis Hamilton there? Everyone's heard of F1, I hope, unlike the Nokia, showing my age. And everyone knows in F1 that it's not just about the car. So they've all got brilliant technology. They're all looking at, how they optimize that technology and be the best. Their mission, their business problem, is to solve that race. But they also look at trust, because that car only works, and Lewis Hamilton can only win those races with a race strategy, with a communication plan, with pit stops that are optimized. And I don't think he would agree, but he's quite arrogant, that if he didn't have that, he would probably crash on every race and cause real issues for the team and not win anything. That is essentially the trust element. But again, trust sounds very theoretical. So what actually is it? So it's the assured reliance of the character, ability, or truth of someone or something. So I want you to think of a person or a company that you really trust. What are their values? What are their behaviours? How have they convinced you that they're trustworthy? Or think about a company that's not trustworthy. Why? And this is like AI, because 76% of UK shoppers currently don't want to invest or shop with companies who are using AI because they don't trust that they are using it responsibly. And interestingly, Gen Z, so probably some of you in this room, are one of the people that are advocating for it the most. So I could talk about that MIT research all day, because I am a bit of a learning freak and nerd. But it was about 3 years ago, and it was really brought to life when I was the director of data and AI at Halfords. So I just moved over into that role. I was from a commercial finance background, so actually quite good at analytics and solving business problems. I knew businesses in and out. I had a good understanding of the technology, like I knew which models to use, the pros and limitations. But what I hadn't really considered is the trust element. And I had a bit of a shock. So it was 8 a.m. I think the team have put that in there. It's probably 4 a.m. in the morning. And I woke up to about 20 messages, 50 emails from people all over the business, because our AI route planning system for our ties on the drive. So if you've ever used it, this is a service where Halfords will bring tyres to you at home and fit them. It had actually gone AWOL. So it was scheduling tyres to be delivered within the next day, but not allocating the rotas out to employees. When things were going out, it wasn't optimizing the right journey. So all the things that we had in place to look at sustainability, and improving time and efficiency. And worst of all, we were disappointing customers, paying customers. So it kind of went down like a shit show, to be honest. So what we did is we turned it off straight away. We went back to our manual processes, but we still caused significant business impact. We impacted the trust of our customers. We had to go out and give discounting for those customers, which caused a significant financial impact for us. We impacted our employees, who didn't really believe in the AI system anymore, even though it had been working really well. And worst of all, I had to go to the non-executive board and our CEO and explain what had happened. So that wasn't a very nice experience for me going into that role. But it was a lesson that I will never forget and taught me all about the trust multiplier. But I'm not the only one. So I don't know whether these two ring true to you. So Tay was a chatbot that was released by Microsoft, I think in the early 2000s. And what Twitter were able to do is train it to essentially become, as it says there, a Hitler-loving sex robot within 24 hours. So Microsoft hadn't put the appropriate guardrails in place to mitigate any impact of this. Straight away, they removed it and they started to think about their responsible AI framework. But again, think of the trust and the impact that this had caused already for them. Again, Amazon, massive tech company and retailer, it started to look at how it could use AI to recruit people into the business. Because of the data that it had, because essentially it had been recruiting a lot of men, so it had biased data sets. The recruiting tool showed bias against women, but also other ethnic minorities. So again, they hadn't thought about the consequence and the impact that that AI would have. And this is why it's so important to have the appropriate guardrails in place, which essentially is responsible AI. And if you're interested, I found this the other day, you can go onto this incident database, and there's about 16,000 instances of very significant AI misdemeanors or impacts that they're having on society as a whole. And if you just think about it, there is no legislation in the UK at the moment about any of this. So it's down to employers and companies to really think about how are we implementing this within our own business to protect our employees, our shareholders, and consequently our profit. So I'll go back to my story. When we did go back up to the board and the exec, we had a big conversation. Was about who was accountable. Was it commercial? Was it operations? Was it data? Who was it? We hadn't agreed up front who was accountable. It's not the AI. So you really have to think about who is accountable for these AI systems. But to be accountable, you really have to understand it. And if you don't understand it, people won't become accountable for the solution that you're building. And it's up to the companies to decide and take accountability of who and how that impact will have. So there isn't a black and white answer for this. It's all on a sliding scale. And it's up to you how you decide where your risk level is and the tolerance and impact that you're willing to have on the customers that you serve and your employees at this moment in time. But be aware of the consequential risk on the other side. So I've blabbered on, and you're probably thinking, well, what are the principles of responsible AI? So I'll start through them. There's 7, but I'm really going to go through them at a top level. There's loads of deep insight that you can go into this, so I would suggest kind of further reading on this topic. But to go through them at a super high level is about the first one, just not there, transparency and explainability. So do you understand the life cycle of how you collect your data, build your models, deploy your models, and then in time retire them? With some of the more complex technology today, which is essentially black box, so I think of ANNs, if there's any AI people in the room, you will never solve a black box challenge. It is too complicated. And anyone who tells you that they can, well, they must be like Stephen Hawking and an absolute genius, because now the parameters that you're able to build with large language models is as complex as the human brain. And we don't understand the human brain. So how can we understand a black box model with the same parameters? But what we can do is understand the output and take accountability and understand and give explainability to the output. We need to ensure that the model is fair and does not discriminate. So going back to the Amazon example, how are we ensuring that our data and our models are reflective of the society, because then they will perpetuate in terms of the impact that they will have. And accountability, as I spoke through, it is fundamental that us as humans have accountability for the output that the output and the impact that these AI models implement. So this is a hot topic at the moment: safety and security. So if I go at a really simple level, this is about making sure that you know your data and your AI models are secure and safe. But if you look at what's happening in the moment with Marks and Spencer, Co-op at the moment, GLR, Land Rover at the moment, they've all been hacked by phishing, which is, well, it's not released, but reading between the lines, it's obviously by some form of advanced AI models. So they haven't looked at their architecture, their IT architecture, to understand the impact that AI is now going to risk to their organisation. So M&S, it's cost them £300 million, and customers are probably thinking, God, where has my data gone? I don't know for Co-op. And Land Rover, I heard it on the news today that if you think about all the smaller suppliers that are actually selling components into Jaguar Land Rover, you know, Jaguar Land Rover can probably take it. These small suppliers are going to be out of business because they only serve Jaguar Land Rover. And as I said, there's absolutely loads of research about this if you now go and dig a little deeper. Privacy, so I'll go through these a little quicker. So again, privacy mainly linked to GDPR, so something not unusual or new. Sustainability, so how are you building your AI models with the right level of compute and looking at the impact that they are having on the environment, such as CO2, water usage, etc. And human oversight. So I truly believe that there should always be a human in the loop in any system. So you may have seen organisations such as Klarna and Tesla looking at how they can completely remove humans from their operations and processes. There are always edge cases in AI. You know, things that it doesn't understand, things that are coming up that are new. So you always need that human in the loop to make sure that the AI is operating how you would want it to. So you're probably thinking, God, well, I've been told to deliver AI. I haven't got time to think about all that. So us at Pendle, this is one of our specialities. I've spent a lot of time learning about this on my own through research, but also at Oxford. And we've developed a Pendle Responsible AI playbook. So what this is, it's around how you start to assess your AI models, then how we can go on to advise against all those responsible AI policies based on where you are on that assessment, how we then can build your AI products to ISO standards. So if you look at a lot of third-party suppliers at the moment, or even other consultancies, they're not building to ISO standards because it's not a must-have. It's a choice of whether you would want it or not. How you then deploy it, so through operating model and the right skills. And then lastly, we probably don't think the market is quite there yet, unless you're from financial services or life sciences. But how do we look and come and give a independent assurance of your AI systems? So you've got actually someone in and saying, we've been independently assessed, that we are thinking about all the responsible AI things that we have to the best global standards. So we constantly scan all the global standards, update our information in real time, and change our operating models accordingly. So I predict, and you can hold me to this, that it says 5 years' time here, but I think it's a little bit less. In about 2 to 3 year time, AI will become a commodity. So technology is moving so quickly. There are becoming really dominant people in the market that actually the technology element won't be any different. Everyone will have access to the best quality AI tools. What will make the difference is how you use these tools, how they align with your values, and how you build trust with your consumers. Because otherwise, how are you going to be different than everybody else? So, it's time to make a choice. Are you going to pick the blue pill or the red pill? So the blue pill is you treat responsible AI and the guardrails around it as a nice to have. You think it'll slow you down, you've got time to wait, and you'll just have amateur racing protocols like F1. Well, not like F1. Or you'll take the red pill and you'll embrace AI and build to Formula One caliber. You'll have the protocols that enable you to go faster and the guardrails to ensure that you deliver value more than anybody thought possible. I really believe that 2 to 3 years from now, we'll look back at this moment and it'll be the time of great sorting. So companies will either fall into the championship level and they'll win, or they'll be the boy racers. So you've probably heard so much today and over the last few days about the benefits of AI, of which there are magnitudes of it. I love AI. I use it in everything that I do, but very responsibly. But there also is a lot of challenges, risks, and excitement. But we can't overlook the AI principles to protect the business. And if you're thinking, well, we haven't even started on this journey, we only use Copilot. Have you spoke to your third-party provider about what their responsible AI principles are? Have you thought about your use internally of how it aligns to your values and the guardrails that you want across your organisation? If you haven't, I'd just start there. So, lastly, it's been a joy speaking to you. I think I'm running on time, hopefully. If you have any questions, please do reach out to me. We are leading the market in responsible AI, so this is quite new, especially in the assurance sector. And the really good news for you is that we've already built the AI playbook. So thank you very much.